Alright guys, new upgrade for the 2020 Ford Ranger. Sorry the audio didn't work out on this video, so I have to narrate. But these are 1.5" wheel spacers that I got from Amazon. Comes in sets of 2, so I had to get 2 of them, of course. And they're about $75, I believe, plus tax. So $150 for all 4 wheels. And then of course, we've got some thread locker here. I read some articles that highly recommended using thread locker on the studs, right? So the name brand here is Coyote, or Coyote, however you want to say that. Again, you can search for them on Amazon. Make sure you use the compatibility checker tool on Amazon if you're looking for wheel spacers for your truck, because these ones absolutely did match and they were great. So again, we got the thread locker. I chose the orange. It says orange is 3 times stronger than blue, and it's actually designed to be removed if you ever need to remove it. So if I need to service the brakes, remove the rotors, anything like that, I'm going to want to remove that. So this is the removable thread lock, so the orange stuff. It was $12 for this big tube. I probably put way too much, you'll see later in the video, so I don't think you need quite that size, but you can probably get the smaller tube if you want. I think they have one that's like $6 or $7 instead of 12. But yeah, that's the orange thread locker, and I highly recommend that. This is going to be utilizing, when you install these, it's going to be utilizing your original wheel studs, and so the studs that are now attached to the actual spacers are going to be holding your wheels on, which you'll see. It makes more sense when you see them opened up. So we're going to go ahead and open the box here. They came well packaged. They did a good job with that. Inside, they did plenty of bubble wrap, and there's some cardboard in between the 2 spacers. So they survived shipping relatively well, even though they're heavier. Sometimes those heavier objects get thrown around a lot and really tear up the box, but Amazon did a good job on these. There's really no instructions, but it's pretty simple. If you can take a tire off and put a tire back on, you can install these. There's just twice as many lug nuts as you're used to now. But you only have to do that once. I don't think you're going to be removing and adding the wheel spacers very often. Like I said, maybe the only reason you would have to remove them is if you're going to replace your rotors or something. I like this black color. The finish seems really durable. It didn't seem to scrape very easily. I didn't have any chips or scrapes while I was installing them. And I really do like the lug nuts themselves too. They're threaded really nicely, seems good quality, and they're actually pressed in there well. If you've ever replaced a wheel stud, sometimes you have to really torque them down to seat them. These were pre-seated, meaning they used some type of press to press them in there into that billet aluminum. So really good, which means I won't have to take my wheels off later and retorque them after I drive a few miles, which you normally would. If you replaced a wheel stud, you would have to recheck it for torque. Since these were pressed in from the factory, I won't have to do that. That's the original factory size there too. So if I remember correctly, they're 12 by 1.5, meaning 12 millimeter diameter on the stud with the 1.5 millimeter thread pitch. So we're gonna go over to the truck now and take a look at the factory wheel placement. So you can see, just without even me holding anything up there, they're kind of tucked underneath the fenders. But then once I hold that PVC pipe up there, you can see that the wheel is completely inside that wheel well. It doesn't protrude at all outside. I'll probably try to get you a better angle here. There we go. So you can see that the wheel, factory rims, those are aftermarket tires, but they're the original size of the original tires, so no, they're not oversized tires or anything like that, and they do fit completely inside that wheel. So we'll go ahead and head back towards the back tire, and I'll show you the fitment on that. Of course, we've got quite a bit more clearance in the back. There we go. So that's the fit on the back, and you can see that does not protrude outside of the factory wheel well there at all either. So it's kind of like a factory tucked look, which is what we want to try to break up and go for a little bit of an aftermarket look, which is why I got the wheel spacers. You've seen trucks with the wheel spacers on there. Just makes it set a little bit wider, makes it look a little bit more stout and a little bit less factory. So let's get to the next step in installing these things. So you can see here, I've turned my truck 90 degrees in the driveway. It's just because it's pitched a little bit down towards the road. It's not a really big pitch, or it's not really steep, but it just bothers me if I'm gonna have more than one tire off at a time. Sorry, it just bothers me if I have more than one tire off at a time. With that little bit of a pitch of the driveway, I don't want to have it roll anywhere. And it wasn't really necessary to do this 2 tires at a time, but I wanted to rotate them at the same time. So I'm just doing a quick back to front rotation here while I have the tires off anyway. So you can see there's a little bit of a pitch to the driveway there, which is why I wasn't comfortable jacking up the entire side of the truck with it sitting in the other way. So this way, pointed this way, is much safer. I've got my jack stands under there, of course, and I always leave my jack for an additional, so it's technically like 3 jack stands under there. So we're plenty safe. So now we've got the wheel removed, and you can see the factory studs there. I wanted to inspect the brakes since I haven't had these tires off in a while, and the truck has just over 41,000 miles on it now. So you can see the pad there is in really good shape. I was worried you wouldn't be able to see it on camera, but you can see it clearly there. It's about 3/8 of an inch of pad left, and those are the factory pads. So I'm pretty happy with that. Doesn't seem to be chewing up the pads too much. The rotors themselves are actually in excellent condition as well. No kind of pitting or anything like that. They look really smooth. Not a lot of wear there. So I'm really happy with the pads, and I may not have to install those until I hit 100,000. It's that the way they're looking now. So here we have our spacer installed, the first one. I was really happy with how the lug nuts fit inside that little thing. I was worried that my wrench wouldn't be able to fit in there, but as you can see here in the video, it fits in there perfectly. I was worried that I would have to get out a ratchet set or something if this lug wrench didn't fit in there. But you can see that they machined that hole really well. I think I'm gonna put the wrench in there in a minute. We'll see. I guess we'll find out together. I'm sorry guys, it's hard narrating this after the fact. It was hard to remember exactly what I was talking about in the video. But you can see that all 6 lug nuts are on there. I threaded them several turns by hand first to make sure they're not going to cross thread. And I did put the orange Loctite on there first, but I didn't really show that part of it right here. I guess I'm talking about the stud there, and that's just saying that it uses your standard pitch thread. So you can use your original factory lug nuts. Okay, here we are showing the fitment of the lug wrench. So it fits in there perfectly. And I was able to torque down all of those nuts with no problem. So, like a glove, which was very nice. So here we ran into a little bit of an issue. I realized that without a wheel on the ground, this whole assembly here spins when you try to torque the lug nuts. So I had to get a little bit creative, because when you turn, obviously if you put the tire back on to prevent it from turning like you would normally, and like you would lower the jack down until it touched the ground before you torqued the lug nuts, you can't do that here, because once you put the tire on, you can no longer access these wheel spacer nuts. So I did have to get a little bit creative and go inside the truck and manually press the brake and hold it down, which you'll see here in a second. So here's how I solved that problem. I just put my seat back a little bit to accommodate that 24-inch level that I have there, and I used that to hold the brake down, and that worked perfectly actually. I was a little bit surprised. I thought I'd have to call my son down, which means he'd probably be upset me interrupting his video games, but I was able to still do this with one person, with just by putting that dead man on the brake pedal and doing it that way, which worked perfectly. So here we are doing the rear wheel. Looks very similar. The rotor looks a little bit different back here in the wheel hub, but I wanted to show you that I was indeed putting the oh, here we are inspecting the brakes, I'm sorry. And these pads in the back look really good too. I mean, they're just as thick as the front ones were, if not even a little bit more. So here I am putting that orange thread locker on, and I have no idea how much of this stuff that you're supposed to put on, so I just put a lot of it on there. In fact, you may see in places on the video where it's stripped off on the ground because I put so much. But again, I have no idea how much you're supposed to put, so I just put a lot of it. That's really all there is to talk about with that. So here we are with all 4 wheels installed. You can see that I turned the truck back the regular way in the driveway, so you can see how it sits. But you can see, even without me holding anything up there right now, those wheels do stick out significantly further. I love the way it looks now, actually. It looks a little bit wider, a little beefier, a little less stock. You can see just from that angle right there how much further it sticks out. About 1.5 inches, which is a huge coincidence because we just happen to have 1.5 inch spacers. Funny how that works. But yeah, I think it looks great. All 4 wheels are done. I'm going to go test drive it here in a little bit and let you know how it feels when I'm test driving it. But I love the way that it looks, and here in a second I'll show you with the PVC pipe so you can see a little bit easier how far they stick out. So you can see here with the PVC pipe that they do stick out significantly further, about 1.5 inches, and they're a little bit outside of that wheel well, which is awesome. I don't think it's far enough out to where I have to worry about kicking up rocks and chipping the paint and stuff. And of course I do mostly on-road driving with this. I drive it through the backyard every now and then, but I'm not hitting like gravel roads and dirt roads and things like that, so I don't think I really have to worry about it throwing rocks on chipping my paint. It just sticks outside of that wheel well a little bit, which I think looks great. You can see here in the back, looks good. So I'm really happy with that. I'm about to go test drive it and see how it feels, if it does feel any different at all. Before the test drive though, we need to do one more thing and have our dog inspect the job. So she's gonna check. Oh, she approves, I think. Yeah, she likes the wheel spacers, and she's telling me the torque is great. Like, I perfectly calibrated that with my arm on that torque setting, which is perfect. So she's happy. She's gonna hop in the back. We're gonna do a little test drive. So I just got back from the test drive. Everything seemed really good. There was no vibration or anything like that. If there was any difference in the handling of the truck, it may have been my imagination, but I felt like it was just a little bit stiffer in the turning, meaning it was just a little bit tougher to turn the wheel. And I'm not even talking like significantly. Again, it's probably in my imagination. It just felt like maybe it was a little bit more difficult to turn. But other than that, no problems. I was a little bit worried about the lane departure detection deal. It does that auto adjustment when you get too close to the white line or the yellow line, and it will turn you back. That worked perfectly. I tested that, and there was no problems there at all. So it doesn't affect any of the factory sensors or anything like that. Drives great, looks good. Couldn't be happier with this upgrade. So appreciate you guys. I'll see you on the next one.